afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon and welcome back. Welcome back to PorscheCooled and welcome back to Owner Stories. My name is Michael Barth. If you haven't been here before, if you have been here before, welcome back. This is the Owner Stories series. As you may know, I stopped. Well, you might not know. If you're only just listening to this episode, you wouldn't have any idea what's been going on. I stopped PorscheCooled for a while. PorscheCooled was 2 episodes a week. It is now 1 episode a week for the time being. It used to be Fridays and Tuesdays. Always published GMT time or London time, British summertime at the moment here. I'm in London. Friday's episode used to be me and Steve, my mate Steve in Sydney, who's got the 997 GT3, and Tuesdays is always Owner Stories. If you want to hear some of those old episodes, there's 176. Well, no, there's actually more now. What are we up to? This is 181. There's 181 episodes, including today's episode. So there's plenty of, let's call it back catalog. There's plenty of back catalog to listen to if you have some spare time. So Owner Stories today, we're up to number 75. Today I'm going to be joined very, very shortly, and I say very shortly because I am actually running late. It's Thursday. It's a Thursday evening here in London, Thursday afternoon, 6 o'clock actually, almost 6 o'clock on a Thursday. What am I saying? Tom's going to be joining me. Tom's coming in from Vancouver in Canada. Tom's I think he's a first-time Porsche owner. I'm pretty sure he's got a bit of there's a story behind his Porsche passion. I'm sure there's a good story coming up there. He sent me a few images, so I kind of know how it all started for him. But we'll get into that. But Tom's going to join me very, very shortly. If you want to be on Owner Stories, like I said, I am recording them for the time being. I'm not sure how many I'm going to do, how many more. I always say that, but I'll probably just keep going. But if you want to be on Owner Stories, I always say this: just send me a DM to PorscheCooled on Instagram. It's probably the best place. You can send it to michael.barth as well, which is also on Instagram, or P997.1. I have 3 Instagrams, believe it or not. But in general, PorscheCooled is the best one. Just send me a DM. Tell me your name first. That'd be great. Tell me what car you have, what Porsche you have, and I'll go about scheduling a time with you and talking to you about your Porsche journey. All right. That's about it. Let me just get Tom through Zoom and let's start talking about his PorscheCooled Owner Story. Okay, welcome back, everyone. Welcome back to PorscheCooled and welcome back to Owner Stories. As I said in the little pre-intro before Tom came online, this is number 75. And let's just get straight into it. I'd like to welcome Tom to the podcast. Tom's coming in from Vancouver in Canada. Tom, thanks for coming on today. I appreciate taking the time out.
Thanks for having me.
So, what's the car scene like in Vancouver? Is there a heavy Porsche scene in Vancouver? Are there lots of Porsche enthusiasts, Porsche clubs?
Very much so. Yeah, there's quite a few dealerships around, quite a few Porsche dealerships, but also little smaller outfits that hold cars and coffees and stuff around here. So it's a pretty big scene.
You know, I should remember, and I don't, and I should have done this before I came on. I have had someone else from Canada on the show. I think I've had a couple of people from Canada, and I can't remember now. I'm sorry to those people if they're listening. Let's get straight into it, though. Let's start off where I always like to start the podcast, and it's like, those first memories. You know what I mean? The first memories of Porsche, the first memories of seeing a 911 or seeing a Porsche in your neighborhood or a friend might have had one, or your parents, your father might have had one. How did it all start for you? When did you first start noticing this car called Porsche or noticing a 911?
One of my earliest memories is my dad actually had a plastic model of a G-body Targa on his dresser when I was a kid. I still remember it. I think he's probably still got it. And it was black plastic with gold Fuchs wheels and some gold accents. And it was probably just the cheapest little toy, but it was on his dresser. And I remember just seeing that every time I was in their room. And I just always thought it was a super, super cool car. And of course I had, Majorette and Hot Wheels cars as well, little 911s and 962s and 935s and all that stuff floating around as well.
So the model car, was that when your dad was, what was your dad driving at the time?
When I was a kid, we just had the basic stuff like station wagons and stuff. He was really into cars when he was in his 20s. He had a 67 Corvette, 427 when he was 20 years old. And then sold that to start a family and bought a pickup truck and a camper. And my brother was born in 81 and they started doing all that kind of stuff. So I just remember having station wagons early on. And Porsches came later.
So what about, tell me the story about your dad though. Tell me the story about, those memories of when you're growing up and your dad moving into Porsche. What was that all about?
When I was a kid, he had a 34 Ford Street Rod in pieces in the garage that just wasn't getting put back together. And my brother and I used to kind of climb on it, almost as a playground. And, I think he got sick of looking at it in pieces and it wasn't getting put back together. So, I remember going out as a family on weekends when he was starting to look for a Porsche, and, he was only looking at 911s. It wasn't going to be a 914 or anything like that. And once he honed in on what he wanted, I remember making trips out to a few in the area. A memorable one was an orange one that we almost brought home. It was an orange. I think it was just a standard Carrera, like a narrow body. But I remember being at the people's house, and it was kind of a peachy orange color. I don't even know if it was a stock factory color, but for whatever reason, that deal didn't happen. And then he found this silver one just outside of Vancouver that I remember when we went to go pick it up, and it was a 78 SC silver on black sunroof, and just bone stock though. And I remember going out and, them doing the deal. And it was about a 40-minute or 30-minute drive home back to our house. And I remember my brother and I fighting over who got to ride with dad and who got to ride with mom in our station wagon driving home. And we stopped halfway at a gas station so that we could switch and then ride home with my dad.
So how old were you then, Tom? How old were you when your dad picked that up?
I was probably about 7 or 8. So it would have been maybe 90, 91, give or take. So that's a great memory as a kid though. So your dad just decided he had to have one. He wanted a 911. Yeah. He always talked about it when I was a kid. We watched a lot of racing when I was a kid, and he always, I knew he liked 911s. He had calendars hanging up in the garage and posters and stuff like that. And even though he was a muscle car hot rod guy, he was always into Porsches and 911s.
It's interesting though, I've had quite a lot of people who've been on Owner Stories have had that muscle car thing in their car history. You know what I mean? Like either as a kid or as an adult, as a young adult, getting your first car and you're getting a muscle car, you're getting the Mustang or you're getting Camaro or whatever you're getting. But then eventually go into Porsche. And I always find it interesting because it seems so different. You know what I mean? Like
polar opposites.
Polar opposites, isn't it? It's so weird. You know what I mean? Todd from Stone City Outlaw, who's got the 356A, who was on an early episode, he had I can't remember what he had now, Todd, sorry, but Todd had this, muscle car, and then he sold it and bought a 356A that he's restoring. And it's like, it's chalk and cheese, so to speak,
Totally,
it's so different.
Yeah.
So how long did your dad didn't keep the 78C?
No,
you weren't driving not till you got to driving age, unfortunately.
Nope. Yeah, I think, I can't quite remember how long he had it for. It must have been, I'm guessing probably 3 or 4 years. I think it was kind of once we all kind of outgrew the car and couldn't go anywhere as a family of 4 anymore, then it kind of had to go. But I do remember quite a few trips in it, and day trips and even weekends and stuff like that. And, driving me to baseball practice in the back seat and stuff like that. I still remember the smell of that car even. I miss it.
Yeah, the SC, the Super Carrera it wasn't well loved for a long time there, though, was it? It was sort of out of favor, and now it's definitely back in favor, and the prices have gone insane as well for the SCs.
I remember when he bought it, and the impact bumper cars were still kind of, not that well liked, I don't think. Everyone wanted either the long hood or something brand new. And at the time that would have been, I guess, a 964. So the impact bumpers were kind of right in the middle. And, I think he drove it for a few years and basically sold it for what he paid. They kind of retained their value pretty well, even back in the 90s. So
that's good.
He did a few little things to it, and he's really meticulous. So he always kept it really nice and even lowered it shortly after buying it. So it sat kind of nice. And
so your dad was very hands-on. He liked working on your dad is very hands-on. He liked working on the cars.
When he was younger, he had a lot of Volkswagens, like Beetles and Volkswagen vans and stuff like that. And he always joked about how you could drop the engine out of a Beetle on an afternoon and do whatever you needed to do and put it back in. But he never tackled anything too big on the 911. Just small little maintenance and stuff like that.
So you've got that memory as a kid. You've got the SC as your dad had that car. You got the memory of being in that car with your brother, and you sent me that image of you and your brother next to the car, which is a really cool shot. And we'll get into that a bit later when you pick up your car.
Okay.
But what was the car journey along the way? Because there's a bit of a gap there, and a lot of us, Porsche is out of reach. It's out of reach for a long time due to financial reasons or other commitments or other priorities. What were the cars along the way? Are there any cars along the way that were memorable cars that you kind of, really enjoyed or wish you still had?
Personally, yeah. I mean, obviously when my dad had the SC, I wasn't old enough to drive yet. So you're in school, you get doing that kind of thing. But toyed with the idea of looking at 911s as my first car, but they were quite expensive still at the time and didn't make a lot of sense as a first car. So I ended up settling on a 91 Toyota MR2 turbo as my first car, which my parents probably weren't really a fan of. A mid-engine rear-wheel drive car with, summer tires on it that I couldn't afford to put winter tires on. And we do get a little bit of snow in Vancouver, so wasn't maybe the smartest choice. But that car was beautiful. It was pale yellow. Probably should have been a brighter yellow, but it was old paint. Yeah. Black leather interior, 5-speed. It had the T-tops that didn't leak, surprisingly. The fellow that I bought it off of even still had the hard plastic felt inserts that went in above the T-tops to almost make it look like a coupe inside, which was awesome because I had looked at a couple and they didn't have that. So, but I bought that car and I just loved it. I thought that was the greatest car ever when I owned it. It felt like a Ferrari, when you're 18, 19 years old and you got this bright yellow 2-seater sports car.
They were special though. I remember I had a friend who had one. I don't know what year it was, but he had one and I thought, wow, and they weren't cheap. You know what I mean? They weren't a cheap car. And,
exactly.
And they were special. And I was going to say when you said the color, I was going to say, is it red or yellow? Because always MR2s, I always remember they're either red or they're yellow. I don't know if it came in any other colors, but they're the only colors I remember seeing.
For some reason, there was a lot of white ones with faded burgundy interior around here. And the top of the dash was always just faded and blistering. It was painful. But this one that I bought was excellent condition. And I remember the guy that I bought it off of was selling it so that he could buy a new 350Z that was just about to come out. That he was really excited about. But I didn't keep the MR2 very long, only a couple of years. And then, like I said, we get a lot of rain and a lot of snow and stuff. And it's not very smart having a little rear-wheel drive sports car all the time. So I ended up getting into I got into a 92 Civic hatchback after that and kind of went down a bit of a JDM road with, spoon lowering springs and stuff like that, and racing seat and exhaust and just little things like that.
So what did you enjoy better, the MR2 or the Civic?
It's the Civic was nice because it handled like a go-kart. It was just this little tiny car and I had a racing seat in it and it handled really well. I had these Falcon Zenny tires. They were not meant for any rain, but I drove with them day in, day out. So that was maybe another poor decision on my part, but they stuck really well in the summer. I love that car. But the MR2 with the T-tops off on a summer day and it just felt kind of sporty and it was really neat.
Hang on. So the Civic was a more sensible car than the MR2? I don't know. It's probably not, right?
Marginally. Yeah, it had back seats at least, but the Falcon tires that were borderline racing slicks were not a good idea.
So what handled better? The Civic handled better?
The Civic did, yeah. The Civic was lowered quite nicely, and I had just little things like strut tower braces and stuff like that. It just made that car handle really well. But you only have so much money when you're 19 or 20 years old, and you can't just keep dumping paychecks into a car. So that car eventually went as well.
So what comes next? Anything else good?
Pickup truck.
Pickup truck. So more sensible.
A little more sensible, yeah. That was that was a 2000 GMC Sierra 1500, and it's I used that camping and fishing and stuff like that. And my girlfriend at the time, my wife now, she really liked driving that truck. And when I had that truck, she actually had a 2001 Volkswagen Beetle Turbo 5-speed that I used to drive more than I drove the truck.
Right.
So that was a good little car, and yeah, we would swap quite often.
Okay, so you've got into the sensible car. You had the JDMs, you had the Japanese cars. You're into the sensible pickup truck. When do you start thinking back to those, as a kid, you're seeing your dad's Porsche when he picked up his 911, he picked up his SC, and you start thinking, I want my kids to have that experience. I want them to have this Porsche experience, or I want to have the experience. When do you start thinking about it, and how long does it take you before you start searching for your first Porsche?
I think it was always in the back of my mind. I always wanted to replicate that photo that I sent to you of my brother and I standing next to my dad's SC on a road trip. I just always thought, as soon as I have kids and we're able to, we have a house and all that settled, I'd like to get one and kind of have a moment, be able to relive that moment and drive my kids to, baseball, soccer, whatever, in the back seat and be able to do little weekend trips. And it was always in the back of my mind, but, prices started creeping up and my wife and I get married and buy our first home and then start having kids. And it kept getting pushed back. And I'd always keep planting that seed in my wife's head that, once we're on our way, I do want to pull the trigger on a 911 of some sort. So, and she was totally cool with it. She had no problem with it at all. She just always kept saying, not until we have a house, not until we have a house. And, we moved on.
We're good at that, aren't we? We're good at that, planting that seed in our wife's
That's
heads.
right. Yeah. You have
at
to
the
get
moment,
the seed.
I'm planting, I hope my wife doesn't normally listen to this, but at the moment I'm planting the seed in my wife's head about getting a second 911. I'm still planting that seed. So, it's you have to do it. You have to time it right, don't you?
Yep. You have to warm them up to it. You can't just go, I'm shopping tomorrow. It's got to be, and obviously, if, financially, if we weren't able to, I wouldn't do it. I'm not going to put us in that position, but, it's just, if it made sense. And I honestly thought at any time, if I got into one, it's kind of a safe place to park a bit of money. They're not really going to drop in value too much like buying a new car does.
True. So after the pickup, I'm jumping forward though, but after the pickup, you go to sensible. You're always thinking about a Porsche. You're always thinking that you'd like to have one when the time is right. Mm-hmm. Are there any other cars there that are semi-sports cars that are kind of taking the place of a 911, or you just sort of just go through the everyday cars that we all do and then eventually they come to the Porsche?
Yeah, just through the everyday family cars, baby seats, stuff like that. It all that got pushed aside just because we were starting a family and had to do all that kind of stuff. And then we got sidetracked for a few years building a house. So the car got pushed back, which is totally understandable. So that all comes first. So
all the priorities.
Yeah, definitely.
So then you think, okay, I want a 911. You wanted the 911, right? It wasn't going to be something else. Had to be 911. What's your search criteria, Tom? What do you start thinking and start searching for? Do you know the generation you want then, or are you just sort of playing around with different generations and thinking whatever comes up that's in right price, good quality, then I'll go for that?
I was really going to be open to anything as long as it was, anything. Well, I can't afford a long hood from the early 70s, but like a G series car all the way up into even a 991. Always had a soft spot for 996s and 997s for whatever reason. I think that's just because when I was getting into driving age and stuff like that, that's when the 993s faded out and the 996s came out. And I just always thought, okay, that's a sensible version to get with decent sized back seats for the kids to be able to ride in. And then it was also the cost of entry on a 996 and 997 at the time was kind of where I wanted to fit budget wise. So
did you contemplate looking at SCs? Did you think about looking at SCs?
Yeah, there's or like later, like 3.2 Carreras. I kind of had my eye on a couple around here, and there's a guy at a local kind of automobilia shop that I go to a fair bit, and he's got a silver on black 3.2 Carrera. Basically looks like my dad's car from when I was a kid, but a little bit, 10 years newer. And I tried planting the seed with him saying, if you ever want to sell your car, just let me know, and it was a Japanese import car and it was a really nice car, but he still got it to this day. And he just basically kept saying, I'm not selling that car. So I realized that finding an SC or even a 3.2 Carrera, they were starting to climb in value. And if you can find one, they're kind of scruffy. And I didn't want to buy something that was going to be a big project.
Yeah.
I'm a little hands-on, but not mechanically really, like little cosmetic things. Yes. But I don't want to dig into any motors on weekends and stuff like that. I wanted to just turn the key and drive. So that kind of ruled out, this late 70s and 80s cars. So then and then 964s had already taken off, obviously, and 993s are, even more so.
Yeah,
so
crazy.
Pretty soon it got to 996, 997, and 991.
Okay, so you're searching for all the modern water coolers. You start searching for 996s or 997s. What comes up? Do you find your car straight away, or do other cars come up first that you attempt to buy? What do you start finding when you start searching?
Yeah, so I once we were getting towards the finish line of building our house, and I kind of started checking the Facebook Marketplace and local dealerships and Craigslist and all that kind of thing. I started keeping an eye open, and there was a few that came up that I proceeded to, I went and looked at and test drove and had PPIs done, and a few of them just didn't work out. That was over about a 2-year span to actually find a car to buy. So there was an 03 C4S seal gray over black interior, had some nice options, red seat belts and stuff like that. Really, really nice car. And it was actually at an Audi dealership in Vancouver. Someone had traded it in on something. And so I had a PPI done at a local Porsche shop, and it had pretty moderate to severe bore scoring. But the car was beautiful, low kilometers. I want to say 60,000 kilometers or something like that. So It was relatively low kilometers, but the dealership said to me, it's probably going to need an engine rebuild in the near future. And I'm thinking, oh man, that's, whatever that would be, $15,000, $20,000 or something. So I tried to let the Audi dealership know what we're up against. And I sent them the report, and they just weren't having it. They just didn't agree that would be needed, and they weren't going to really negotiate the price. So I walked away from that one.
Which, that's a bit distressing, isn't it? That's a bit distressing, though, because I've heard that story before. Someone else has told me a similar story where they looked at a car, someone on Owner Stories, and I can't remember who it was. They looked at a car, they had it inspected, the same thing. You know what I mean? It had that issue, and the dealer didn't want to know anything about it, and the dealer still, I think, kept it up for sale and sold it to someone. And
that's kind of what the sales guy said to me is they didn't really feel that that's what would be needed. And I almost feel bad for someone that might have bought in that car not knowing that they had to go that deep into it, because the shop I dealt with, they do two levels of PPI. They do a base one, and then they do like a bore score deeper.
Okay.
And you have to specify what you want them to do. And someone getting just a standard PPI done might think it's a great car and check out and buy it, and they might be fine, but a couple of years down the road, they might have a large engine rebuild bill. So I wasn't comfortable with that. So
it's lucky you paid. It's lucky you paid the extra money, Tom, and did the proper PPI. So at least you found that out. So that's the main thing. So you dodged a bullet there. You got away from that one. I just want to go and say, you say that was a 4S as well, right? Yes. Everyone knows what you've got because in the title. Were you looking for a Carrera 4 or Carrera 4S in particular because of where you live, or it wasn't a priority?
I always wanted a 4S. I just love the body style. I love the wide body and the stance. And the four-wheel drive thing was kind of a side note for me. I wasn't too concerned about that. I just remember seeing the C4S when they came out, the rear 3/4 view, following them on the freeway, thinking that's a good looking car. Just the stance and how wide they look, like an animal about to pounce on something from behind. So I just and then the light bar, the reflector between the taillights, I just love the look. So I kind of honed in on those. I had some buddies and my brother were all over me to get a 996 turbo. They go, you got to get a turbo. They're, from when I started looking to a turbo now, they've doubled in value. So I should have maybe gone that road, but I like a smooth body. I don't like all the side vents and not a lot of wings. Like I just like it clean looking. So I didn't really want to go turbo actually, even though they had the Metzger engine, which could be a little more headache free and bulletproof. But
you don't have the IMS issues. But
exactly.
I mean, the Carrera 4S though, I remember it as well. And I've probably told this story before. So other listeners have probably heard me talk about this before, but I remember seeing it in a dealer in Sydney, and it was packed, and the back of the car was to the glass. and just looking like you said at the back. And it was the S as well. It was the S, the light bar, the stance, and it was just such a beautiful car. When it came out, it was just such a beautiful car. It still is a beautiful car.
Yeah, it's great looking. Yeah.
Yeah, it's got a great angle to it. Just a great stance to it.
Yeah. But that's how I honed in on that. It was I always liked the C4S, and I didn't want to go turbo. I didn't want any of the vents or wings or anything like that. I'm not really into that look, even though it might be maybe a stronger engine. And
so you're not a GT guy?
I am a GT guy, but I'm more of a touring guy. Like I definitely appreciate GT3s and GT3 RSs, but I would always go to standard GT3 over an RS. For me, an RS, there's just too much going on. I totally appreciate them, but I would go touring over anything for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So that one didn't turn out. You keep looking. How long does it take before another one comes up that's reasonable?
Probably a couple months. There was a standard narrow body. I want to say that one was an 03 or 04 base Carrera that I went and looked at Visac Porsche in Vancouver. I went and looked at that, and it was Tiptronic, and I wasn't really a fan of going down that road, but it was a really clean car and it fit in the budget. But I was standing there looking at it thinking, it's not a manual. I don't really want to, it's close, it's close to what I want. It was silver on black and it had a sunroof and it was, very low kilometers. And the dealership had already done the PPI with all the bore scoring and, or the bore scope and everything. So hummed and hawed about that one, and then didn't do a deposit or anything. And oddly enough, that car sold, and on a Porsche rally drive up to Lake Country, about 4 hours outside of Vancouver, the guy's IMS went.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the engine seized or something on that drive.
Right.
And the dealership ended up covering it for him because he'd only had it for a month or something like that. So it's good that they stepped up and helped him out with that, but I kind of dodged that bullet as well.
Yeah. Sorry, Tom. Is that the law in Canada? So it is warranted when you buy a used car? Are all used cars warranted?
I'm not sure. I think the dealership was maybe trying to protect their name a little bit too, because they're a pretty big, reputable dealership that's been around for a long time around here. So,
right.
Maybe there was a bit of fear about that story making the rounds, but
yeah, especially selling it with the report as well, and everything's okay, and then something happens.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, it's good of them to do that. But so you dodged another one. You dodged another bullet.
Dodged another one.
So
and
now
then a few months.
So now every car you look at, you're obviously doing the full PPI, right? Because now it's like obvious there's going to be an issue. It didn't turn you off. It didn't turn you off the 996s and not think like what your friends were saying. I've got to get a turbo so I don't have those issues with an Edscar.
And then you read online, like it did. It made me nervous, but you read these stats online, and it was something only like 4% of the engines were actually, having those issues. So, and then the bore scoring concern seemed to be on very low mileage cars. So, when I came across a 997 S, just a Carrera S, that again at the same dealership, silver on black, went down. It was 6-speed manual. Took it for a test drive, bone stock, really, really nice car. And I put a deposit on that, and then didn't quite have my finances in order, and a little bit of monkeying around on my end. And the car sold. I got my deposit back, and it sold the next day. So that was my bad on that. But that would have been a nice car. It was just a standard 997 Carrera S, which was a nice, clean car. Yeah, manual. Yeah, really, really nice car. But that one just didn't happen. So I kind of regrouped. And then I caught wind of a 997 C2S that a friend of a friend was selling that he wasn't going to advertise. It was black on black, had a Kenwood stereo with the Apple CarPlay installed, 100,000 kilometers. Really nice car. I went out and looked at that one, and back and forth a little bit dealing with the guy. And then he got cold feet at the last minute and said, I'm going to keep the car. So
okay, so not much luck. So you're going through a few cars here. So you're getting, but it's good though, because you're looking at a lot of cars. You're seeing the difference between them as well, aren't you? So you're actually it's good that it's almost like, on the job research in a way. So
Yeah,
what happens
exactly.
then? So does your car come along then, or is there something else?
So that was probably this time last year. It was probably about April last year that the black 997 fell through. And then I'm getting a little discouraged thinking, oh, it's, you think that a 996 or a 997 would be so easy to find, but finding a good one was getting a little tricky, and you got to act fast. So I just kind of left it for a while, checking the personal or like the Facebook marketplace ads and stuff. And then, 11 o'clock at night, one night, I'm sitting on the couch scrolling through Facebook Marketplace, and I see this O2 silver on black C2S or C4S, sorry, manual. And I start, I scroll down and I start reading everything it's got. IMS bearing's been done, new Michelin tires, clutch was done when the IMS bearing was done, and everything it's had. And I think I messaged the guy right then and there, and it was at a dealership, but it was actually on consignment through a private sale. I guess the seller didn't want to have to deal with people coming and meeting with them, so he sent it to the dealership. But so I sent a message. I said, I'll be down there tomorrow morning to go look at it. And the guy said, yeah, it's still available. Come on down. So I went down there and started looking at it and trying to hold back my smile and my giddiness because the car is just beautiful. It was mint condition, and a little road wear on the front hood and stuff like that. But everything else on the car was just awesome.
So the dealer was just a Porsche dealer, a Porsche specialist, or just a dealer that sold prestige cars, or? Yeah,
just a kind of a luxury car dealership. They had a little bit of everything. The front showroom had I think they had a 992 Turbo S with a Tech Art package and stuff on it that was, brand new. And then they had some BMW M3s and just a little bit of everything in there, G-Wagons, and then this thing was sitting in the corner.
So how do you trust this dealer though? So you've got they've said all this work is done. Do you want to do second checks, or you just trust that you look at all the paperwork? Is everything up to scratch? Is everything in order?
Yeah. So I sat down, there was a folder full of paperwork, cross-referenced the VIN number with the VIN on the car. And then most of the receipts and work had been done at Wyzak Porsche in Vancouver, which is the dealership that I kept going to.
Yeah.
So they were the ones that put the Michelin Palette Sport PS2s on it a year and a half before. They did the LN Engineering IMS retrofit. They did the flywheel. They did the clutch. All the work was done at Wyzak. So I said to the guy, the fellow at the dealership, I said, I'm really interested in the car. I want to go for a test drive. So we did that. And then I booked it in for yet another PPI. And and went on from there.
So who did you choose to do the PPI though? Did you get it done at Wyzak, or you got it done?
I went to Wyzak. Yeah, I went to Wyzak.
So they knew the car. They knew they had the history of the car and everything.
Yeah. So
did they give you? Sorry, Tom. Did they tell you anything that you were surprised with? Was there anything that was hidden from the dealer?
No, they came back with real minor bore scoring. And I was thinking, oh geez, here's another one, with 100, because my car's got about 145,000 kilometers on it. So not low kilometers, but, why is that kind of said, they're all going to kind of have a bit of bore scoring. So they're not sure how much of a concern that's going to be.
Right.
And then some of the other receipts were from another shop called Blitzkrieg Auto Works in Vancouver. So I went to those guys as well, and I forget the name of the owner, but I talked to him for about an hour one day, and I told him about the car. I said, this is the car I'm looking at, and he was familiar with the car. He knows the owner or something like that. And he basically talked me off the ledge and said, they're all going to have bore scoring and stuff like that. So, if you think you're going to find one that's just perfect, it's not going to happen. You just kind of weigh the pros and cons and look at maintenance records and stuff like that. So I think the next day I made the deal on the car.
Fantastic. So tell the listeners exactly what it is. So it's a O2. Tell them all the options that it came with. Was there anything added to the car from the previous owners that you liked or didn't like?
Yeah. The guy before me actually did everything that I was going to do to it. So it's a 2002 C4S, Arctic silver, black interior, sunroof. Standard seats, unfortunately. I wish it had the hard backs, but I'm trying to work on something there anyway. But yeah, really nice interior. Standard seat belts, doesn't have any deviated stitching or any extra options there. It had the still had the tape player, the factory tape player with the 4 tape slot holders below the tape
cool.
deck. Yeah. And the 6-disc CD changer under the frunk.
Yeah.
It's got the Bose sound system with the subwoofers and everything in it.
Sounds like my 997. I've still got the disc changer as well.
Yeah, I still have my there too, even though I don't even use the system at all anymore. But yeah, I had the new tires on it, which was nice. I was going to probably put new rubber on anything I bought anyway. It's got H&R coilovers on it.
Okay, nice.
And roof wheel spacers. So 7 millimeters in the front, 12 millimeters in the back, which is something I was going to look at doing already. So,
right.
Between the tires, the coilovers, and the wheel spacers, that was all checked. So I didn't have to worry about any of that. And it sits really nice. So
yeah, the H&R are really good for the 996, aren't they? I think most people that have a 996 get H&R, don't they?
Yeah, they're kind of, they're a good price point. The car rides really nice. I mean, I'll drive down the road, and as we all do, we kind of watch for potholes and stuff like that. And even some that sneak up on me, I kind of just cringe as I'm about to hit it. And it's surprisingly subtle. It just absorbs it.
Fantastic.
They're a nice setup. So
how was it the day you go into the dealer, you paid the money, and you pick up the car? How was that feeling when you drive out of the dealership? Did you take your wife with you? Did you take your kids with you?
I did, yeah. So I didn't tell I have 2 boys. I have a 7-year-old and a 10-year-old, and I didn't tell them. I just told them that Mom and I had we had some errands to run, so I had to drop them off at Nana and Papa's house. So we drove them over there, left them with my mom, and I'd already talked to my dad. I said, listen, I'm going to go get the car today. Can you drive me down there? And he said, yeah, sure. So my wife and I and my dad hop in their car and we drive down there, and I was all ready. It was really nice, really smooth. Walked in, paid them, and got insurance put on the car. And then, we were on our way, and talk about a pinch me moment. I mean, I know it's only a 996, but unbelievable feeling. I had goosebumps driving away. It's just long dream of mine to own one. So unfortunately we were driving home at the end of August in rush hour traffic. So it was a long crawl home, getting used to that clutch and stuff like that. But we pulled into my parents. They live in a cul-de-sac, and I pulled in front of the house, and I went and knocked on their front door, and I stepped out of the way, and the boys could see it at the end of the driveway. And they both said, is that ours? And I said, yeah. And they both sprinted out to the car and hopped in the driver's seat and the passenger seat, like a couple of orangutans, and they were just as giddy as I was. So
what about your dad? What was your dad saying? Because it must have been quite special for him as well.
He actually, he took a picture of the car just as we pulled out of the dealership lot and we went to the first light. He showed me later, he sent it to me later, but he took a picture of me, owning the car for 2 minutes. And he just kept saying, what a good looking car. Like it looks so nice. It's, I think he's pretty proud, thinks it's pretty cool that I got my own now so many years later. So,
but it is a weird feeling, like you said, when you pick it up, even in rush hour traffic, you pick it up and it does hit you, doesn't it? It hits you because you might have had friends. I mean, I had friends that own 911s and I've been in 911s, but when you're actually in your own one and you're driving it, it's kind of scary and it's kind of, it's not real. You don't think it's real, do you?
Yeah.
And I remember driving back to my home, which is not that far away from where the dealer was, and going into our garage, underground garage, and it was like, this is weird. Just parking it in the car spot. Your other car's gone and this one's taking the spot, and it's just like, this is a weird feeling. It's a great feeling, but it's a weird feeling.
And also, that drive home, I think I heard Spike Ferriston say it one day, you're kind of fragile. You're driving home and you're thinking, what's that sound? Is that supposed to be there? And what's that creak? And okay, is that, you're did I make a huge mistake? What's going on? So, but no, it's
Tom, even the first drive after that, like if you hit a pothole in the wrong way or you go over a speed bump wrong or something, like you think you've destroyed the car, which you haven't, you know what I mean? It's like they're a lot tougher than what we think, but it's like you worry about every single thing. So you get the car, it's at home. Do you have to do anything to it? Is there anything, do you take it back to Visac and get some things done, or is the services all up to date? Did anything have to be done?
Yeah, the dealership that I was buying the car from in Visac, they're like downtown Vancouver. So I live about 40 minutes outside of downtown. So there was a shop closer to me called Turn 3 Autosport that I heard amazing things about. Everyone said, you got to take your car there to get anything done. And I wanted to deal with a local shop anyway. So So I called them up and I just said, listen, I just bought this car. Couple little things that I want to get looked at. Can I book it in? You guys give it a once over and stuff. And they said, yeah, no problem. Bring it on in. So I put one of the flat six Motorsport intake pipes on the car, just the black silicone pipe, and then the little cap for the resonator pipe. Yeah. I didn't want to get the Fab Speed carbon fiber intake or anything like that. So I just wanted something kind of made a little bit of intake noise, but looked relatively stock. So while I was doing that install, I could see on the top of my belt on the back of the motor, there was a split in my belt.
Right.
So I when I called Turn 3 Autosport, I said, listen, I just bought this car and I want to get the belt done. And can you give the car a once over? So they said, yeah, no problem. So got the belt done. And then they gave it a once over and made a little note. One of my front air conditioning condensers was weeping or in rough shape. The guy at the shop said, do you have AC? I said, yeah. He said, well, you won't for long. I said, oh, okay. So those things get peppered with, pebbles and stuff like that. So I got to do the mesh behind the front grills to just kind of help that out. So that was an issue. And then the all-wheel drive system, some of the output shafts had splits and some issues. So
right.
I was going to have to get that addressed. So I had the belt done, and then they made a little bit of a checklist of things I was going to have to get looked at. And then I made note, I wanted to order the PCCM Plus system for it.
Fantastic.
So I didn't do anything during the fall on the car, just drove it. Actually bought a set of 997 Carrera wheels with Michelin Alpine winter tires.
Okay.
And put those on the car because I planned on driving it all winter. Other than that, all winter I just drove it and just recently did a bunch of the repairs because they weren't really, didn't have to be done right away. But.
So how was the list though? Was it a lot of money or was it okay? The list that you have to do.
No,
you bought the car. You bought the car last August, wasn't it? You said.
Yeah, end of August. Yeah.
And the list wasn't too bad.
No, it was mainly, like I said, the air conditioning condenser, and then the output shafts, and then just some black plastic trim. Like my passenger side fender liner is cracked, which I've had the wheels off looking at it, and it flaps a little bit. I might have to address that, but no, it wasn't a bad list at all, actually.
Well, that's good. So, and the clutch was done, you said. The clutch was done with the IMS. That was all done. What about water pumps and things? Yeah, what about water pumps and things like that? Nothing showed up there? Because they're always a common failure in 996s, 997s.
No water pumps. I asked them to look at the air conditioning, the hard lines that run down the door sills. That YouTube page, the Friends Green Porsche, I watched all their 996 videos. I love those guys.
How good is it? Honestly, if you have a 996 or a 997, it's the best channel, honestly.
Oh, yeah. I watched and rewatched every one of their 996 videos. Everything they do to prep a car for sale, I watched that stuff. So I knew exactly what I was asking for.
Yeah. I like how they're so thorough and they go through
everything and common problems. So, yeah. They seem like good guys. So,
and they just go through everything.
But no, I didn't. Yeah. No water pump issues on my car though or anything. So none of the stuff that I'd made a note of from the YouTube guys. So, just little things. Yeah. It was kind
fantastic.
Of nice. So.
Fantastic. So the car's in good order. What about making it your own? Is there anything you got the PCCM Plus? Has that been installed?
Yeah, it's installed. So I ripped the Band-Aid off about a month and a half ago, and I just booked the car and I did everything in one shot.
Because that's a big outlay, isn't it?
That is
the installation side of it more so than the unit, isn't it?
Well, that's the thing. I've had guys message me and say, hey, I want to get that. That's not a bad system, And I said, yeah, but the price you see on Suncoast Parts or even from the dealership, they're all about the same. I think they're about $1,200 US online or $1,295. But it's the long list of things that you need as well, plus the installation. So all the extra black trim pieces and all that kind of stuff. And the SIM cards that they ding you for the GPS. Like my brother said to me, why'd you get the GPS? You have it on Apple CarPlay. Just plug your phone in. I said, I want everything that the system comes with. I want it all installed properly. So I don't want to have to tell a story down the road if I'm trying to sell the car. I just want everything to work. So, so I had that installed and I redid all the output shafts on the drivetrain and everything. So going into spring and summer now, I just wanted to have the car kind of.
So now it's perfect.
Now it's perfect. But
yeah, it's interesting with the PCCM Plus. I didn't realize you needed all those extra parts either. That's why Friends Green Porsche was actually good. That video they did on that, and he says, you need this bit and you need this and you need the maps. The maps don't come with it, and it adds all this cost.
And they show you the Porsche part number too, which was really nice. So I actually missed out. I didn't mention it to the shop that did the system at the time. They just ordered the system and installed it, and I didn't realize that the extra little cubby shelf that you install below the unit is extra. It's not standard. So that's my fault. But I went to go pick up the car, and my 4 little cassette tape holders are still there. I said, well, where's the cubby? And they go, that's not a part of it. So that's another $60 or $70 that I got to spend to get that little thing. So I got to get that addressed. But
I can't wait till they do that system for the 997. I'm waiting. I'm hanging out for it so I can change.
Oh, does the one for the 996 not speak to the car?
No.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
No, you can't do it yet. I mean, they say they're going to bring it out, but I don't know when.
It's pretty slick. I had the USB port. Some guys do the cubby shelf below the system with the USB, so you can put your phone right there. But I didn't want to have to see any of that, so I had them run it into the glove box. And because my car's a left-hand drive, I guess because the glove box goes to the right when you're looking at the system, the cord is long enough.
It's
whereas
long
the guys
enough.
the Friends Green Porsche guys say you can't go do it in the glove box because I guess the wire has to wrap around the system and then go
it's
the
too
other
short
way
or something.
Yeah. So. But I like it in the glove box. I get in the car, I plug my phone, and I close my glove box, and Apple CarPlay comes up, and I'm off to the races. So,
fantastic. So what about the common sort of wear areas on a 996? How's the interior and everything when you purchased it? Because the seats sometimes get a bit worn on the bolsters and stuff. Was the interior all okay?
The interior is mint. I don't think anyone ever sat in the back seat, so those are perfect. The driver's seat, the side bolster getting in and out. Just a little bit of wear and tear. A couple of creases just where the people always sit and the leather rolls over in the same position every day. But I don't find the seats too terribly comfortable, actually. So,
oh, really?
They're okay. They're I wish I had the sport seats, but
aren't the standard seats, Tom, in the 4S? They're still a sport seat, though, aren't they? They're not like the standard 996 seat, are they? I thought that was slightly different.
I'd have to compare them.
Yeah, I thought they were slightly more bolstered than the standard 996.
They might be. They have some pretty serious bolsters on them for sure. But I'm maybe in a year or so, I don't know, down the road, I'd like to get into some Recaro Sportster CSs in leather. That's kind of the next goal at the in my mind. So, but there's some issues with that. Like I have power heated seats. So do I want to spring for the power heated Recaros or just go manual and lose the heat as well? But then apparently the Recaros are a little bit wider at the base. I think they're 3 or 4 inches wider. So there's the shop doing them is going to have to know that and maybe tweak some things. So
that's a big investment though.
But that's maybe not in the cards, but we'll see.
So you pick up the car. You said it was in traffic. When was that day you went out and you took it for a drive and you realized what you actually had and you felt that rear engine magic that 911s have? It
was probably later that evening. I think I went out, took the kids and my wife out for ice cream. You get that. You're just looking for any excuse to drive, or do we need milk? Okay, I'll go, But we all hopped in the car, and we live in a little bit of a country area. So there's some really nice driving roads. On weekends, we're actually a little bit of a kind of, I guess you could say, a destination. So we have a lot of cars and stuff going by because of the nice driving roads. So I'm spoiled by living in this area. Took the family out and started flying through some curves and you can definitely feel the weight back there. Very interesting. I've driven a fair bit of 911s, but never pushed them at all. It's just a test drive. But now pushing my own car a little bit, it's pretty interesting. Definitely unique.
Absolutely. And how's the sound? I don't know if we touched on that. Does it have the sports exhaust or is it just
No, sorry, I didn't mention that. Yeah, it doesn't. It just has the standard oval tips and the standard exhaust, which I think sounds really good. I've had friends following me or listen to me pull away from a restaurant and later on say, "Oh yeah, your car sounds really good." But I've never heard it from the outside. But Yeah, I just have the intake pipe done and then the standard exhaust. But to me, it sounds really nice, especially up 4 or 5, even 6,000 RPM. It really starts to scream.
Is the intake modification an expensive modification? The one from Flat Six? You said you got it from Flat Six Motorsports, right?
Yeah, Flat Six Motorsport. I think it was $90 Canadian.
Oh, really?
It's not bad at all. And it just replaces the standard intake to the airbox. Has a standard intake pipe and then a little side resonator. You get an aluminum cap that caps that one side pipe, and then you just go to a black silicone pipe. So it's about a 5-10 minute install. You have to pull your airbox off. So I did the filter and the intake pipe on it. So
you put it on yourself, or you got the dealer to you put it on yourself?
No, I just threw it on myself. Yeah, really easy. Yeah, it's like I said, maybe 5-10 minutes all in, but and it was kind of fun. So, and I found the belt was ripped, which was good.
Yeah, that was a good part of it. So so it's all ready now. It's ready for summer. There's nothing. What about that? What about after? Is there anything else? That's it. There's nothing else you want to do. You're not going to get another set of wheels. You're not going to get the Fuchs, or you're going to get the, those sort of things, that we all look at. Side stripes.
It's wheels wise. I love just the stock turbo twist. I'm kicking myself for not grabbing a set of turbo twists that were for sale on Facebook Marketplace because they're the lighter hollow version, but you keep the same look. So. Because it always blows my mind when I take the wheels off my car, how much those things weigh. It's unbelievable how much. I don't know what they weigh, but it's a lot. But I'd like to get my wheels refinished, actually, as opposed to buying a different set of BBS wheels or something like that. I'd like to just get them redone. There's some light curbing and stuff, and you could see where wheel weights over the years have been moved when the balancing was redone. So I want to get them all cleaned up really nice. But other than that, no. I might sell actually my set of 997 winter wheels I was using because I really didn't drive the car that much in the winter. I thought I would in the snow, but we ended up getting about 8 or 9 inches of snow, and I wasn't taking the car out into that. So I just waited till the weather was nicer to drive it again. So might move on from those.
Fantastic. All right. So what about those? You're talking about those roads. You're talking about the roads in your area. Because I want to talk about watches in the end. I want to talk about your watch passion as well. I want to talk about a couple of watches that you were mentioning before.
Okay.
But what about the drives? I always like to know about, we always like to talk about that favorite drive. If someone's coming to Vancouver, someone's coming to your region, where would you say to take your 911? Where would you say to take your sports car or your 911 out for a good spin?
One of the real popular ones is the Sea to Sky Highway. So basically North Vancouver to Whistler. That's a really good run. That's why I put the snow tires on in the winter. My wife and I were going away for the weekend up to Whistler, and after October 1st, the police will check if you have snow tires going up that road. Yeah, so they'll pull you over, and if you don't have snow tires on, they'll turn you around or give you a big fine. So I didn't want to get turned around, and obviously I didn't want to crash my car either because it was cold. So, but I didn't want to have, I didn't want to ruin our weekend away by not having the correct tires. So I put those on. But really great drives. Sea to Sky Highway is unbelievable. You got rock face and waterfalls and arbutus trees on one side and the ocean on the other. And on a sunny day, it's hard to beat that road for sure. But it can be a little treacherous. Weather can change from the bottom to the top, and you get a little bit of everything up there. But I tend to just stick to the local farming roads around here. We got a few good twisty routes, and I kind of live in the middle, so I've got a good little 25-minute route. If I get home from work and the sun's out, I'll kind of grab my keys and say, who wants to go for a drive? And sometimes the boys will get off the video games and come with me, and sometimes they won't. Sometimes
so you're in a good
my
spot.
Wife and I go.
Fantastic.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
So it's one of those destination drives that other people travel miles to get to and you're kilometers to get to, and you're actually in the middle of it.
It is. Yeah, exactly. When we were building our house, I remember being at the site just doing little things. And, a Saturday morning, I guess the local Porsche club we're on their route, and they would go by and there'd be about 30 of them in a row, and I'd stop and just stare, think, one day I'll be able to join in with those guys. So
how's so have you joined the Porsche clubs? Have you done those events or not? Have you done any?
I've gone to a couple of the little cars and coffee events. I haven't joined the local Porsche Club of America chapter. I would like to, because I was on their website, and they organize nice drives, and and they kind of I guess they get deals on hotels and stuff like that. So I'd like to get in on that. And they kind of pre-plan the event. You just pay and go along. So it kind of takes a little bit of the thinking and planning the route, which I'd like to get in on. So.
But, that's what's good about Porsche is the community, right? But I think I just want to go back to that photo. I still think what you sent me, when you sent that to me and you sent me that photo of your dad, you and your brother with your dad's 78 SC, and then the picture of your two boys with the 911. I think that's what, you forget. People say it's just a car, but it's not just a car. You know what I mean?
It's not, yeah.
It's not just a car, and your boys are going to remember that, as did you and your brother remembered it. You know what I mean? And it's...
I hope so, yeah. Yeah, it was, and honestly, like I told all the stories about trying to buy cars, the seal gray one and the black 997. And even though those were great cars, at the end of the day, I wanted a silver on black car because that's what dad's cars. Well, it just had to be silver on black. And I know they always, guys always joke, your first Porsche is silver, but, which it is, I guess. But I was looking for one for my own reasons, not because that's what was out there. It was because it meant something to me. So that picture I took of my kids, we were coming back from my first Cars and Coffee, which was, I think, the week after I bought the car. We're driving back, and I saw a little gravel pull out, and I said, "Boys, I want to take a photo of you." So we hopped out, and actually I just took one picture, snapped, got in the car, and I couldn't.
But it's great because it's framed in the same way. It's perfect framing. You got it right the first shot.
Yeah. So no, I remember like standing there taking the photo, and it was like it gave me goosebumps actually, because it was just meant a lot to be able to share the car with them and take them for drives, and so I love it.
And it's silver.
It's silver.
I know we always talk about all these crazy Porsche colors, but I still think silver is just Porsche and silver just timeless. Go together. Timeless.
Oh yeah.
And I think even if I was speccing a new one, I'd probably get GT silver. I'd probably just be, people say boring, but I'd just go GT silver, I think.
I think so too. Yeah, it just fits the line so well. It's just meant to be.
Especially when you see the new GT3 Touring, or even the 992, when you see the Carrera S in silver, it just looks fantastic. It just... It's like that's the color they base it on, and it always looks good in silver. It always has to look good in silver, I think.
Yeah, they start there and then they move on almost.
Yeah. So what about the perfect garage? And this is something new to Owner Stories, and I haven't always asked people this, but I'm starting to ask it because I stopped Owner Stories for a couple of months and I've started it up again. And what about having the perfect Porsche garage? No, money's not an issue. What would be your perfect Porsche garage, Tom? 2 cars or 3 cars?
I think you got to start with, Carrera GT would definitely be up there. That's, I know they've skyrocketed in value lately, but that I like those since day one when they were, they even bottomed out in Canada or in North America, the $400,000 range, which is, or even under. It blew my mind, but definitely a Carrera GT. See a few around here, and I'm always jealous. There's a father and son that have matching. I think there's a red one and a silver one around.
Really?
Yeah. Wow. So I was able to get under the silver one when I was at the local dealership one day, and that's when they told me that the red one that's seen around, that's either the father or the sons. I forget who has what, but definitely Carrera GT. And then I'm a big fan of the 911R. I think if I won the big one tomorrow, I'd probably reach out to Steve Serio and have him track me down a low mileage 911R in the launch color with the red stripes. That's quite the car.
Yeah, I don't talk about it much, but the 911R to me is the one. I think that's the one. And I know they dropped. I mean, in Australia alone, they dropped so much, and I've said this story before, how they were selling, when I bought my car in 2017, they were selling for, the dealer that I bought it from had one for $1 million Aussie for sale.
Wow.
And then, which he had a couple come through and they were all over $1 million. And then recently, I think they dropped down to like high 5s, early 600s. But then, there was 3 or 4 for sale, and then they just all dried up. And if you bought them then, I think you've got the bargain of the century, because I think it happened.
It's almost like they bottomed out.
Yeah, and I think in the US it happened as well. But that story that I listened to, I've been catching up on old podcast episodes. I think it was on Spike's Car Radio, where Jerry Seinfeld's talking about his Carrera GT, the one that just sold on Bring a Trailer that they published.
Yeah, his East Coast Carrera GT.
The other one, right? Did you hear that story? And what did he sell it for? 300. He said he sold it for 300,000 or high 200,000s, and it just sold for 1.8 million.
I can't imagine. Yeah,
like,
I know. It
still has to hurt. No matter how much money you have, it still has to hurt.
Yeah, billionaire aside, it still has to hurt when you leave 1.7 on the table. But
absolutely,
yeah, it's definitely a 911R. I think I think the 991.2 touring manual market killed that. Killed the speculators, which is great. I'm glad Porsche did that. But I think ours have settled, and I think the one to get a few years ago was when remember on Spike's Car Radio, the Jan Koum collection. He had one that was getting auctioned, basically delivery miles in the launch spec, and it went for, I don't know, 280 or 300. I mean, whoever bought that car is sitting pretty.
Yeah, the 911R, it's weird with the, I like the GT3 Touring, the 991.2 GT3 Touring. It's a great car. But, listening to Cam Ingram from the Ingram collection talk about it, when he's got both. He's got the Touring, and his family obviously have Rs or 1R or 2Rs.
That's right, yeah.
And, someone asked him about, is there any difference? And he said, yeah, of course there is. The 911R is still a better car. It has to be a better car. It's not the same. Yeah. You know what I mean? I mean, people like to say things are almost the same, but they're not. The 911R is that's what Porsche does best, that little fine tuning, that nuances that they do. Just
a little bit of difference in calibration. A little bit of difference,
a little bit of difference.
Yeah, that's the one.
That's what we love about it.
Yeah.
Tom, what about anything else? We're almost at the end. I want to talk about watches, but is there anything else you want to share with the listeners about your Porsche journey before we go? I mean, a lot of people that listen to the podcast, and I know you said to me you're quite new in listening to the podcast. There's quite a lot of people listening that don't have a 911. They're searching for it. They're looking for the information to buy one, and 996s and 997s are obviously on everyone's lips and things that people are looking for. Prices are going up, though. It's getting harder and harder. But what do you think about as an ownership thing for your first Porsche? You think the 996 was the right one?
I think so. I think, size-wise, guys think that it's, it's so much bigger than a 964 and 993 when you have them side by side. But then I get in and, I have tall kids. My wife's tall and I'm reasonably tall. So, we're a little scrunched up in there. So I think family-wise, if you want to have anyone in the back seat, I think the 996 is the starting point, and then you got to go up from there. My 10-year-old's 5'2" and he hates it in the back already. So he kind of moans and groans if we're going out as a family, and he says, "Are we taking the car?" I said, "Yeah." He's like, "Oh." So if it's just the three of us, he sits in front with me. But no, I think that's 996 is a good starting point. It's no complaints usability wise. So I didn't want to have anything that the AC didn't work, and I didn't want to have little issues with it, so that's why I went kind of with a modern classic. I think it's a good livable daily car. I don't daily it, but I drive it 4 or 5 times a week if I can. So
fantastic.
That's a good starting point.
You've done well, that's for sure. It's a beautiful car. It really is. The Carrera for us is a beautiful car, and in the right color. The
scary thing is the next jump after that. I unless I can get into something like Steve's GT3, there's a big gap for what I like, so I can't see moving on from the C4S.
Yeah. I feel like I missed the boat on the GT3 The prices have
I've heard you talk about it.
The prices have gone insane. Someone told me that the prices in the US have gone crazy as well. I don't know. I mean,
they have in like Vancouver and stuff. They're to get like a 997 GT3, they're, I might be off a little bit, but 150 to 200,000 Canadian to get into something like that. It's just crazy.
997.1. I don't know. I think Canadian dollar and Australian dollar is similar or not?
Pretty similar. Yeah, very similar.
But I think 997.1, you're looking at 300.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you're telling me I should buy one and export it to Australia then?
Yeah. But then you got to pay all the duties that Australia charges you. This is a problem. Yeah. But 300K, which is insane, because even if you go through the old podcast episodes, when I was first talking about it, and another one of Steve's friends bought one, and, it was still under, this is when they were being advertised under 200. And that's not even that long ago. And now it's just gone crazy. 0.2s, I saw a 0.2 advertised for 370 for a 0.2. Now, I know what I would buy. I would buy a 991.2. You know what I mean? I wouldn't buy a 997.2. So
same. Yeah, I'm not a fan of the 997.2 taillights, actually. I know it's a great car and everything, but just on sheer looks-wise, a dream car would be a 997 GT3 RS.
That's a beautiful car.
In orange. Whew, yeah.
Yeah. I like the gray with the red. Gray with the red wheels, I'm a big fan of that one.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. On the dot two. That looks pretty good.
On the dot two, yeah. That's not a dot one, it's dot two. And in the dot 996.1 GT3 RS, that white and blue that they did, there was one for sale in Sydney a while back. That's the color, I think, the white and blue. Very special. So what about watches?
Nice.
When you're in your 911, what are you wearing?
My day-to-day is a Black Bay GMT Tudor that I got a couple years ago. That was one we kind of chatted before we hopped on, but that was one of the waiting list watches. I kind of had to go into a local dealer and put my name on it. And they said it might be 2 months, it might be 6 months. And I said, I don't care. Just call me when it's in. And it was about 4 or 5 months down the road. And so I got that. So that's my day-to-day. And then I've got some other Tissot's and stuff like that. But another one, actually, to bring my dad back into the story, he gave me, when I was in high school, he gave me a Seiko 6139, the Pogue with the gold face. I don't know if you've seen that watch before.
Sounds familiar. I'll have to research.
Famous for Colonel Pogue wearing it to space back in the 70s. Okay. So my dad bought that watch new, and it stopped working after a weekend trip to the lake in the 70s, and it got shoved in a drawer. So he gave that to me when I was 17, 18. And so I got that up and running again recently. And that's my vintage side of things. But
Seiko's are good watches, but the Tudor GMT, and you're right about the wait list. You couldn't get, even in the UK here, and I did get one, like I said to you before, and I was going to keep it for myself, but I bought it and Steve took it. And I think the wait list at the time they said to me, was like six to 8 months.
Yeah, 6 to 8 crazy. Months. It's crazy.
And even when but I think, I'm getting off track here. I think that Tudor GMT is a really, and I get a lot of people asking me what should I get into when I first, I want to get a good watch. What should I buy? And it depends on how much you want to spend. But like the Tudor GMT, the Tudor GMT is a great watch. You know what I mean? The Black Bays are great watches, the Tudor Black Bays. And then, the Speedmasters are great watches. If you get a Speedmaster Professional, just get it. It doesn't even have to be the newer one, which the newer ones are probably cheaper than the vintage ones. But I've got a really old one. But that was my first real luxury watch before I got into Panerai.
Nice.
But I think Panerai as well. And I was speaking to someone the other day who's going to be on Owner Stories, and he was talking about how he wanted to get a watch and he liked the Panerai. And I think Panerai is a great one to get. If you get a manual Panerai and you don't get the automatics, I think can be a little bit troublesome and cost you money with servicing. The earlier ones are not as reliable as the manuals. So if you get a manual, you're actually quite safe. But I think Tudor in general, Tudor's really reliable. It's got the Rolex history.
Exactly.
And for the money, they're a great watch. And I love mine. Like I showed you earlier, I've got my bronze on today, my Black Bay bronze.
Yeah.
And that's a great watch. I mean, it's completely patinaed and it's, whatever, but it's different to everything else and I love it. It's a great watch.
Yeah. That first, the first time you bang it on a door jamb or something, when you get home,
exactly.
You don't want to even look down at your wrist and then you realize it's okay. But I've thought about swapping out the band to a leather strap for summertime, but I don't really want to mark up the case and stuff like that by prying off, doing it myself and prying off the Oyster bracelet.
Did you get the NATO strap with it? Did you get the
No, I bought
NATO?
it on the Oyster strap. It didn't make much sense. They to buy it on the NATO strap and then to buy the Oyster bracelet separately, they wanted something like $900 to get the Oyster strap after. When the difference from getting it new to getting the NATO strap wasn't $900. So I don't understand why anyone wouldn't get it on the Oyster to begin with and save the money and buy the nylon NATO strap later. But
when I bought my bronze, it comes on the nubuck gray sort of strap. Which
that's right.
Really soft.
Yep.
But I actually asked them for the Tudor strap as well, so they threw that in. So they were very nice to me here in London, across the way where I bought the watch. But I never put it on, and I'm like you. I don't really have the right tools for it.
That's
I think
right.
You actually need the pin tool. I have actually got the pin tool, but I know people take their straps off, their bracelets off Rolex, and you've got to have these pliers, these proper watchmaking pliers, which are not cheap. I think they're a couple of $100. But I don't know. I always worry about scratching it. Knowing me, I'll probably scratch it, but I don't know if it matters that much. I don't think. I always say you shouldn't be too precious with your watches. I remember when I first bought my Panerai, my first Panerai, and I just used to wear it to work, and I used to wear it, and it used to get bashed around. And I look at it today, and there's a few scratches on the titanium, but really there's nothing wrong with it. And it's good to see these watches worn. And I always talk about that image. That image of Ed Sheeran, the singer, who's got the Patek. I think it's a Patek, and it's just bashed. Completely scratched.
It looks like it went through a cement mixer.
But it's got a life. Have you seen that one? That picture was on Hodinkee, and it's got life to it. You know what I mean? I'm sure John Mayer's watches. I don't think I've seen it. No. And John Mayer as well, who's got all those watches. I mean, these people have got a lot of money, but but it's got that.
They use them.
They use them. And that's what you should do. Like your Porsches, you should use them.
That's right. I know they're not doing any good sitting in a drawer. I wear mine in the lake. I wear it in the pool.
Oh, really? You swim with it?
Yeah, it's my everyday watch. I remember when I first got it, I was so excited to get it. I was getting up to watch Formula One at some ungodly hour one morning, and my wife heard me put my watch on. She said, "Did you just put your watch on?" I said, "Yeah." I wear it every day, 5 a.m. or not. It gets put on. So
Formula One. We're both fans, and you're a fan.
I am huge fan. Yeah. I've been to the Canadian Grand Prix a couple times.
Oh, have you?
Yeah. It's, might try to go back sooner than later. I don't know. I've kind of planted that seed about going this year, but I'm running out of time. So
I was. We just went to Dubai, and I just missed the Bahrain F1 again. We could have actually been. I was there like 2 days later after it ended. So I always keep missing it. When we were living, when I was living in Bahrain for a while, I don't know if you know, but we were living in Bahrain, and it was COVID, so they cancelled it. So I missed it then as well. So it's like. Just unlucky. One time. I'll go to Spa. I'll go to Spa one day, though. I want to go to Spa. That'd be a good one.
I'd like to go to that one, too. I hear it's hard to get hotels and stuff. It's hard to... Spa's a tricky one because you're actually quite a long ways away from any other towns and stuff like that, apparently. So it's... all the local hotels get eaten up by teams, and it's a little tricky to stay at. So my brother's done Monaco. He said that was just unbelievable. He was in France for business and made the trip down. He said it was unreal, but
I always worry about Monaco that you're not going to see enough. But I guess that's what I was.
He sat by the swimming pool area, the chicane there, and really? But it was something unbelievable. Like I think he only went on the Sunday. His wife said it's so expensive, you go alone, and I think his 1 day race seat was €900 or something like that for the 1 day. Yeah,
that's a lot.
Unreal. So,
Tom, thanks so much.
No problem. Thanks for having me. It was
been a great chat. Yeah.
I was excited to do this.
All right. Can I share? You want me to share your Instagram to the listeners, or is that a private Instagram? I can't remember.
No, you can share it if you want. Yeah, not a problem.
Okay. So if you want to go and Tom's got a couple of images of his car on his Instagram. His Instagram is @Tom_Obear, OBEAR. So Tom_OBEAR. I'll put it in the description of the podcast. Make sure you go over there. Tell Tom you heard his story on Owner Stories on PorscheCooled and give him a follow. Fantastic. Thank you so much, Tom.
Not a problem. Thanks for having me.
All right, everyone. That's Tom coming in from Vancouver in Canada with his 996 Carrera 4S Arctic Silver. Beautiful car. We all like the Carrera 4S, that's for sure. All right, everyone. Thanks for listening to the PorscheCooled podcast. Bye for now.